Trap's got a hold on me. Yeah.
Just give me one more time, man, I swear I'm gon' stop.
Trap's got a hold on me.
Made my first little money, fell in love with the block.
Trap's got a hold on me.
I'd like to welcome you guys to another Untrapped podcast. I'm your host, Real Coach Rude. I'm being joined today by a good friend of mine, my boy Harold Brinkley, a.k.a. Poncho, a.k.a. At The Choice. And we just about to have a good conversation, you know what I'm saying? And you know that's what I'm about. I'm about having good, solid conversations about growth. And, you know, what basically brought us here today is me and Poncho been knowing each other since he came from East St. Louis. Went to Morehouse College, started off throwing parties at Morehouse. You want to talk to him about that a little bit?
Shit, high school, actually. I started throwing parties in high school before I moved down here. And, you know, I got to school, kind of figured out the lay of the land, did what I needed to do, planted my feet, and then figured out how to do it here. And then, you know, that was all she wrote.
Yes, sir.
That's just a piece of the story.
Yeah, you know, we'll give him a little bit more as we go along.
No doubt.
If you're wondering, this dope set that we at right now is his what do you call it? Is a restaurant, speakeasy?
Cocktail lounge, speakeasy.
Cocktail lounge, the James Room. Very nice spot, dope spot. Super cool R&B night on Wednesdays. Love the vibe here. Can you talk about the growth that it took from you, a little bit about the growth from throwing parties in college, getting your degree at Morehouse, taking your degree from Morehouse and leveraging it with, you know what I'm saying, getting a good job once you graduated and, you know, throwing parties as a hobby and, you know, take them through that journey a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. So the whole reason that I even got into doing events and parties to begin with, it was never even to make money. Me and my boys just decided one day, like, yo, let's just go to a club and throw a party. So the club owner would be foolish enough to let us get the spot.
Right.
So me and some of my best friends that I grew up with, we go to a spot. It's called Club Rendezvous, right on State Street in East St. Louis, Illinois. We just asked them, could we bring our friends? And, you know, it was wildly successful. I think this was my junior year in high school. It was wildly successful, and, you know, so many people came back, like seniors that had graduated and went on to college before, seniors that was in high school at the time. It was just crazy successful, and I just never forget that feeling that I felt when I looked around the room, like, yo, like, people having a good time. This is something I put together, like, right. And I appreciate the feeling of bringing people together and watching them have a good time, and that feeling never left me. So we ain't make no money, but I figured out that I could make money by doing the thing. So past that point, you know, we tightened up on our business and made sure that we had some type of deal in place to be able to get money from the door and things of that nature when we were doing the parties. But you know, we did that. I ended up going into my senior year of high school. If you ever have heard about, you know, the infamous dance from St. Louis that everybody around the world called the Chicken Head, it was more affectionately known as the Monastery, where we're from, which is in East St. Louis, Illinois. And that's what we call it at the crib. But once, you know, Nelly and them hit the scene, like, they kind of renamed it and everybody kind of called it that. But the Monastery is actually a club. I had my own night, my own high school night before I left East St. Louis and did parties there before I went to move to Atlanta and started, you know, and came here for college. But past that point, man, to get to the meat of it, I did parties in college, did parties in high school.
No Diddy, by the way.
No Diddy.
Oh my God, that was a strong one, man.
Chill out, dog. Chill out.
My bad.
But yeah, so I came to college, you know, figured out the landscape, you know what I mean, chilled out my freshman year, made some friends, got to know people, established myself or whatever the case may be, and you know, jumped right back in the game. And ironically, though, one of the things that I wanted to prove to myself, because I ain't know nobody when I came to Morehouse. Like, I just moved here. It was an experiment, somewhat of a social experiment. I wanted to prove to myself if I was who I thought I was, so to say. So I came down here, didn't know anybody, and tried to start over again.
Right.
And, you know, I found out that some of what I thought about myself was kind of true, or whatever the case may be. So, you know, got myself set up, met some guys that did parties here, collaborated with them. We got it popping, you know what I'm saying, made some good relationships, figured out the college scene, graduated, got a job to your point, and one of the things that I figured out was just like how important social capital was. Like regardless of like you got motion at the moment, like being able to maintain social capital in some straight way, form, or fashion is very important for being able to pop something off when it's time to. Like doing favors, you know what I'm saying, not causing a lot of conflict with people, doing things that helps other people without always looking to get something out of it. It's really important. And as far as growing is concerned, once I got a job, man, and realizing all the money and time and energy we put into throwing parties in college, I realized that if I was able to put that same money and time into something else that was a little bit more lucrative at the time, because the money kind of got fucked up after a certain point in the parties, and I kind of saw that happening. Can I curse?
Yeah, what?
All right, no
Hell,
doubt. Just
we
making
have a
sure.
real conversation. This is how we talk.
All right, no doubt.
Yeah, for sure.
So I kind of took some time off, and some of the guys that we are mutual friends with, they kept going, like Tori and Kobe and all them, Plush Blue, Dream Team, salute all those guys. They kept doing it, and built a local following within the city outside of college, and they kept going. But I took time off, got a job in corporate America, started making some disposable income, started traveling a little bit to different cities with some money in my pocket to really see how other people was doing it. And I just never forget, one city that I hated going to was D.C. In 2006, 7, 8, D.C. was super stiff because of the political and government influence there. Like everywhere you wanted to go, whether it was the park at 14th, whether it was I forget the big spot that my man owned down there by the waterfront. But most of those places you had to really have like hard bottom and a button up to go out. And I just, coming from Atlanta, it felt like, damn, like I can go out with a t-shirt on and a fitted hat and be cool. I got to do all this, I'm shucking the job and to go somewhere. It's like,
yeah, because Atlanta was easy.
It was super easy.
Yeah, everything in Atlanta. Well, that's kind of like what Atlanta had turned into, was pay for your comfort.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I felt like Atlanta went into this landscape of, okay, well, if you don't want to have to dress up, well, I'm going to pay an extra $50 for tennis shoes or $100 for my hat or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, nah, you can't tell me that I don't want to vibe the way I want to vibe because I'll pay extra. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And then, that got us to the point where now we're in this conversation about, sections and stuff like that. How Atlanta is basically the section capital of the world, where it's basically you're just selling a VIP experience in Atlanta. There was a couple things that you said in your story. You said it a couple different times, and I don't want that to get lost in the conversation. 2 different times you said, that you weren't making money or you didn't make money, and I don't want that to get lost, because that's like, people assume that when you do something, even if it looks especially when it looks successful, that you can monetize that.
Right.
And I think that's how me and you became really good friends, because like, of course, you had your crew of people, your crew that you threw parties with. I never really got close with any of those guys or whatever, but you always, to me, were the type of person that always wanted to curate a vibe. You know what I'm saying? And there's not a dollar amount on that. So it's like when you said, yeah, I didn't make any money from it. Well, who cares if you didn't make any money from it, because you learned how to do something that was priceless, that you, after you did that process more and more and more, you got to the point to where, now you can monetize it. So it's like, yeah, you might not make any money on the front end, but you learned a skill. You know what I'm saying? Curating a vibe is a skill. So Absolutely. You learned a skill, and you turn that in to being able to create the next level of what you really wanted to do.
So one of the most important things that I did do was travel, right? And having it, and the reason why I mentioned DC is because DC is now a lot more relaxed. Like, it went from a point in time where I hated DC, where now I can fuck with DC. You know what I'm saying? Like, and now it's a lot more opportunity for me to go places. And you know what? I do want to put some clothes on, go sit on the bar, grab a drink, have a proper drink, and be around some grown folks, right?
Right.
Like, I like having that option. Then I didn't care about the option as much, which brought me to the next point, and the point that you made is about curating the vibe. I came up with this term called age-appropriate fun, And I think there's a space and a place to where, like, when you get to a certain age, like, fun don't look the same as it looked 10 years ago. And there has to be places and spaces that exist in order for people to be able to do that. Because we all social beings, most of us, and we do have a desire to connect with people. And I think we need more spaces that appeal to the sensibilities of people as they mature and grow, and they learn different things, and they want to be able to do those things in the places they're at. So at the end of the day, that age appropriate fun thing kind of made me start paying attention to things that people like and dislike, and using that data and that information to kind of decide what type of event I want to do, what type of venue I would like to do that event at, what type of venue I would like to own one day, like all those things, like just paying attention to like what women like, we telling the truth, like guys are coming out to chase women.
Right.
You know what I mean? Or if whatever the case may be, to be politically direct, to pursue the type of person that they're interested in, like, and their sensibilities. So whether, you're into guys or women, whatever the case may be, like, you're going to follow those people. And you got to be able to appeal to people's sensibilities, because if you make it all about the dollar, at some point you're going to lose sight of what the people really want, because you only care about the cash register.
Right. One thing that people might not understand about guys like us, I feel like, being removed from the situation and looking back on it, that we had a struggle that nobody else had to live through. You know what I'm saying? And it's like now there's a TV show about it, and it's popular. So a lot of people have awareness of BMF, right, and what was going on during that time period. But they don't understand and can't imagine what it was like, how much of a competitive environment it was during that time, right, and how creative you had to be as a 19, 20, 21-year-old kid that didn't have money like that, right, to be able to get the attention of anybody, whatever it was that you wanted to do. Right. If you wanted any type of attention, how creative that you had to be in order to get it, because at that time period, during if you went over to the AUC, you see Rolls Royces and Ferraris, and it was crazy during that time. It was all the rappers, everybody BMF, all the bad, bitches that was at the AUC.
It was pressure.
Was pretty much fucking with somebody that was completely on another level past where we were at.
Right.
And so for us to even get a look, we just had to be more creative. We had to understand, where we were at, number one, and what we had to do we had to know ourselves better to figure out what kind of vibe we were trying to present.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And it was really tough on me, because I went to Georgia Tech, and I don't even have class. Y'all had access. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Y'all had the ability to go to class, and y'all had the advantage. I didn't have an advantage. You know what I'm saying? I think that's probably the biggest thing that messed me up was, it wasn't no NIL. You know what I'm saying? I ain't had no access to NIL money. All we had was Pell Grant, and we had to figure it out. You know what I'm saying?
Whatever your hustle was.
And I'm from Atlanta, so I was leveraging my Pell Grant, you know what I'm saying, and doing what I needed to do with my relationships, right, to even to try to compete, you know what I'm saying? And so during that time period, it was so much pressure, and like we were saying, that vibe, the club scene and the party scene in Atlanta was changing, because you could go into when we first got there, there was they had SOs. When we first got there, SOs was off of Piedmont. Was that? No, that wasn't Piedmont. No.
Memorial, I'm sorry.
Memorial was the second SOs. One? The first SOs were upstairs, downstairs. It was somewhere around Piedmont. It wasn't was it Cortland? It was over there in that area or whatever. Mm-hmm. But you could just go in and kick it and have fun, and you know what I'm saying, dance. It was dance floors or whatever. Even 112. There was not really any like VIP areas or whatever. Right. You had the VIP or whatever. It might have been upstairs. Or, it might have been like a little area that they call VIP, but it wasn't like sections.
Right.
But then it's like, okay, well, everybody had a bottle.
Everybody had a bottle.
The club went from everybody was dancing to everybody had a bottle. Mm-hmm. And I remember my thing was, before everybody else, I was a PJ guy. You know what I'm saying? Like, everybody was on rosé. Well, no, let me take that back. Everybody wasn't on rosé. everybody was just, champagne, whatever bottle that you can get or whatever like that going on. And then, I'm like, okay, rosé. But you know what? Nah, PJ, I want the flower bottle.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But I ain't gonna lie, I got that because when you in the club, you at Visions or whatever, you
100%.
see the big dog. You know what I'm saying?
You get what they
I
get.
actually watched Meech at Visions. I actually watched Meech at Magic City. You know what I'm saying? I actually watched Meech at Cream and Buckhead. You know what I'm saying? Like I actually watched these guys do what they were doing. So it was like at that time period, you had to try to do things to like separate yourself.
So it's separating yourself, but they're also looking like everybody else too.
Right.
This is the tricky part of it because, and Meech even said that in one of his interviews, like y'all see me spending X amount of dollars in the club thinking, boom, 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 I done spent $100,000, but that's all the money y'all got. Like, I got X amount in savings account, you know what I'm saying, in cash at the crib, to the point of where, like, this is where, like, nightlife in Atlanta gets really tricky because, like, we visual people first, right? Like, we discern and decide what we want to think about people, even if you try to govern yourself against it, like, we judge people based on how they look. So as a young cat coming up and you trying to compete, what the first thing you're going to do? You're going to try to dress like the big dogs.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You're going to ride with the big dogs buying. So to your point, the Pale Grant, yeah, niggas taking refund checks, going to Neiman and Saks, getting the product World Cups immediately. I need those. You know what I'm saying? You need the throwback jerseys. You need all of that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, so trying to look like something that you ain't at the time to compete with guys that are in a whole different tax bracket than you at the time, to compete with the same girls that they got easier access to because they got the money. And that just becomes a vicious cycle to unbreak because once you get into doing that, if somebody does not unteach you that, and then you just get stuck in that process as an adult and not even realizing that you was doing that for an old goal.
Exactly.
And it just becomes a habit.
Right. And it's like you talked up pretty much what my next point was going to be, which is what made you have the ability to have the financial wherewithal or the financial discipline? What gave you the edge as far as when you were monetizing, leveraging what you were making and looking forward into the future and saying, okay, I need to be prepared to make this type of investment at this time? What was it that you did, or what advantage did you have that put you in the place, in the space to be prepared to run an operation like the James Room?
I mean, one, I have a finance background, so that's kind of cheating somewhat. But then kind of
That's not cheating. No, that's people need to understand that. Like, if there's somebody that's watching,
right,
and they want to have an advantage, like what did you do for your major?
Marketing and finance major. So it's kind of left brain, right brain to come together and kind of make a perfect pie. But the financial piece of it is just one of those things to where, like, you really just got to understand what your goals are. Like, if you want to have disposable income, whether it's to take vacations, whether it's to put into an emergency fund to make sure your family's straight, whatever the case may be, it's just about having a plan and then actually having a tangible way of getting to that plan, whether it's saying, hey, like, I'm going to auto transfer this money to a specific account that I'm never going to look at, and just let that be there. If you get a lump sum and you got something that you got a hustle going on and it's a lump sum, you say, all right, cool, I'm going to take 50% of that, boom, put that with the other money. So we're just having a tangible plan, but then also tapping in with other people, right? Because when you tap in with other people, they kind of give you some tricks of the trade or some things that you need to know. And it's just information. Like, that's the biggest thing that we can share with each other is information. And if you are smart enough, or are diligent enough to, like, take information and be actionable and use it, that's what kind of separates genius from just smart to me. Like, right, being able to take information and actually put it into action and make plays. But you got to have a mentor too, whether it's informally or formally. You got to have somebody that's doing something in the space that you want to be in and understand how they did the same thing that you just asked me. Like, identifying people in the space to say, look, okay, you started off as a promoter, so you taking that money, putting it with some more money so that you can one day own your own venue, right? Mm-hmm. For me, so it was about putting myself in a position to say, hey, before we even get to financially, is that I'm going to put a lot of time into my own personal brand and social capital so that when it's time to do business the way I want to do business as a venue owner, that I could be in the places and spaces and in the areas that I want to be in. Because, like, a lot of times, like, I'm going to just keep it a buck. like people that aren't from the culture don't know how to receive us because we're so dynamic as people. They might see somebody like my man Kobe, who I specifically know, like they may look at how he presents himself and try to minimize him to be just this because he only does that, not knowing how dynamic of a person he is, and like trying to discount him on opportunities because he only carries himself one way, and that's who he is. But that don't minimize who that person is. So I've always tried to play in the middle of my dynamicness to try to make sure that like I don't lose out on opportunities, being my whole self all the time at the wrong times.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so that's one thing. And then kind of understanding that like at the end of the day, like we don't have to be monolithic. Like at the end of the day, like we can be not dynamic and different. Like you can be a nigga that's from the hood that like to drink Japanese whiskey, red wine, travel, and be with all the shit at the same time.
Right.
And like, but people have to see that more often than just say like like, cause I'll be out sometimes. I be at MCK and like I be walking around with a glass of red wine. I like, you fancy tonight? No, nigga, I like red wine and I really like it. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like a nigga came up to me, what region is that from? Nigga, Argentina, Malbec. Nigga, what you talking about?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and then and I didn't even necessarily feel like he was trying me, but it's one of those situations where
Yeah,
like
he was trying.
it's all good though.
Call it what it is.
I'm all good with that, but it don't have to be a situation where like that's so rare that it's have to be a conversation. Like you could just see that and like it don't even really, you don't really think about it too much. You have to have a conversation about it. But when you do, in bad ways, like we get grouped into groups that just ain't unfair. And like it's because we do it visually, right? Like we got on suits right now, but you know, it's this concept of like duality that we have to sometimes use to navigate the world because other people can't receive us as our whole full self. You know what I'm saying? Like
yeah, code switching
fully. So like I don't have to always operate full left because I stay in the middle. So I can go left or right if I need to.
Balance.
And that did me very well from a branding standpoint and put me in position to know bankers and other investors and lenders and VC and PE people to be able to put pitch decks together and raise money for multiple ventures in my life.
Right. So one thing that you said, you know, because I'm from the street part of it, you know what I'm saying? So, you know, I got my degree, you know what I'm saying, in business with a marketing and finance concentration as well.
Right.
But I wasn't able to use mine because I caught a case when I was in college, and you know what I'm saying, once you catch a federal case, it's over with.
See, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But that same concept, I utilized it, you know what I'm saying, in the street where I said whatever it was, like you said, you know, lump sum 50. Well, I had a third. My rule is the third rule. Mm-hmm. So anything that I did, I always put immediately a third of it up. You know what I'm saying? So this doesn't even count. This is somewhere. Right. You know what I'm saying? No, you know, I got it. Nobody has access to it. It's an automatic thing. Whatever's going on, I'll automatically put whatever this is going to the side. Mm-hmm. So I utilize that. But the funny part about it is, because the way that you said it is like, okay, you left from the party scene, and it's so funny because it's like so similar. You left from the party scene, you took some time off. So during that break, that's when you were stacking, you moved around, you saw some different things,
right?
And then you came back with a different type of energy. Right. And I feel like that's kind of like the same thing that I did, because it's like I took about 2 years off, and you know, people that were around me during the time, they would, you know, I was basically getting made fun of because, and I know that it's a testament to what I saw, you know, especially, and I know I brought up the BMF situation, but I saw this with my own 2 eyes. So it's like, I'm like, dang, when I come back, I gotta be on a whole different level if I want to be able to compete.
Compete, right? Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So I'm already saying to myself, well, you know what? I'm not gonna do anything. You know, I'm not gonna buy no clothes. I don't care about no car, nothing. I don't care about. All I care about is just stacking. And I wasn't getting a haircut. I was basically wearing the same clothes every day, and everybody was like, "Man, what's up with you? Man, you dirty, man. What you doing?" You know what I'm saying? And it, you know, basically sound a little crazy. But the people that were right around me, they knew. They were like, "Wait, something's going on."
Yeah,
you know,
my boy beard growing out.
Yeah,
no haircuts. Yeah, I know what he got going on.
Yeah, man, buddy, man. And then so I was using that approach, but that's the other part about it is that there's a season for everything.
100%.
Right? If you want to have your harvest season, your spring season, if you want to have a good time after your spring season and ball out during the summer, you got to go through the fall and winter.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So every season that goes by, you got to spend time in that season.
Right.
excuse me. I think that that's my main frustration with what's going on in Atlanta right now, which is even making me even like focus on the untrapped, because it's like everybody is kind of like trapped into one season in Atlanta, and there's not one season in Atlanta. You know, we actually physically feel 4 different seasons, but it seems like nobody takes a break. There's like this perpetual cycle where
Right.
everybody, it just feels like they always have to be on the scene. And if you're not on the scene somehow, some way, because you're not on the scene, you all of a sudden you're broke, or
Right.
you're not relevant, or whatever. So there's this theme, there's this underlying theme is basically like, oh yeah, well it's summertime all the time in Atlanta. And while it was in its heyday, it worked. And the people that took advantage of it in the right way because they saw it coming, they took advantage of it. But then once they saw that it was going away, they, you know, whatever, they gone now, or they transition, or they it was time for them to retire. And it's like Atlanta's in this space now, in a recovery space of trying to figure it out. You know what I mean? And it's like, well, now, like what you said, you kind of got to unlearn some things
Right.
that you put yourself into, whatever that hamster wheel is. You put yourself into that, believing that it's summertime all the time, where we need a winter time. We need a fall going into winter time where we're storing up and preparing for the winter,
Especially
and stacking
now.
up. You know what I'm
Sure.
saying?
For
And,
sure.
and getting ready for the spring and getting ready for the summer.
But you know, on the flip side of that, there's also just life experience, right? Like you had to take an L to even know that, like, oh shit, I can't be operating like this, because when the winter come and it get cold, like I need to be straight.
Right.
Like if you ain't never been through that, you just wouldn't know. But I think there's a more superficial element to what you're saying too. And I think, man, you know, you hear people that move here to Atlanta and they talk about how bad the dating scene is, and you know, I won't say that it isn't. I think it's probably a bad dating scene all over the fucking country.
Right.
I mean, just the numbers don't support it unless you are unless you would allow yourself to date outside of your race. Other than that, like if you black and you want to date if a black woman wants to date a black man, the number's not in her favor. That's just the reality of it. So a lot of the times you see people, guys and men. I mean, with women and men, you see them out, and it's the cycle, like out, they out, they out, they out. These motherfuckers lonely, bro.
Yeah.
They lonely. They trying to bump into somebody, and I can get that, but the reality is, like, you just can't keep doing that same thing. Like, you're gonna keep running to the same people. At some point, like, you got to do something a little bit different. You know what I mean? Like, don't get it twisted. Like, I did meet my wife out, but she was at my event. But at the end of the day, I have seen how people continue to come to the same places every weekend, every day. I mean, every weekend, same venues, and it's like, I don't knock that if you want to get out the house, but like if you are coming out to date, that's just not a realistic way to go about it.
Right.
And these motherfuckers lonely.
Right.
That's it.
So for you, what do you see? Because, you know, I saw that you had James Room 1, right?
Right.
And then, you know, you look like you were trying to transition over into another James Room, James Room Part 2,
Right.
to go to the next level of the vibe that you were trying to curate.
Right.
And you know, that's something that people need to understand and know too, like, you know, the pitfalls that come along with it. You know what I'm saying? Like you said, if you never took a loss, you don't really know how that feels.
Right.
But that loss, you know, builds up a different level of character for you.
sure.
And it builds up another level of a sense of fortitude for you. You know what
Right.
I'm saying? Like going through that, you know what I'm saying? So like, can you, like the preparation that you have to be ready for something to possibly go wrong, or were you ready for it to possibly go wrong, or did it happen? You know what I'm saying? What happened in that situation?
In that situation, I was absolutely not prepared for it to go wrong. You know, it was kind of like Murphy's Law. Whatever could go wrong will go wrong. And it was worst case scenario, so I was not prepared for that. And, you know, that shit hurt. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm still living and dealing with that today. Like, we ain't even all the way figured that situation out. But I have to wake up every day and keep trying to figure out a way to right size the ship to make it make sense, and you know, extract whatever goal was supposed to come from that situation. But like as far as like being able to brace for a financial loss, man, the only way you can get through it is to go through it. You know what I mean?
Right.
And figure out, okay, it's a paid lesson. It's an expensive ass paid lesson, but it's a paid lesson. So it sharpens your saw, and now you got some tools in your toolbox via negative reinforcement. But it makes you a better business person. It makes you, like, to your point, like, it builds up a certain level of fortitude, tenacity. It just kind of makes you pull on everything that you got inside you to see what you're made of. Because at the end of the day, like, situations don't get easier. We get stronger. We get tougher. You know what I mean? And that's just it at the end of the day. Like, there's no way to really get to where you're supposed to be without going through some type of storm. That's just it. You know what I'm saying? Like, smooth seas never made a good sailor. That's just the reality of it. And this is my sea being a little rough.
Right.
And I'm just had to embrace it for what it was. Even though I ain't like it, I can't complain about it. All I can do is just keep trying to ideate, keep trying to figure out how can we make it make sense, being strategic and being, tactical as far as what's the best course of action long term to try to figure it out and, hold people accountable.
Right. Yeah.
But
Accountability, that's that's the next level of it. It's like, go ahead.
But I want to be clear. Sometimes an L is just an L, and you got to eat it.
Right.
And you just got to eat it. And what that L does to you and what you do after that, that's the important part. You know what I mean? You can't, you fall down 7, you get up 8 times. You know what I mean? You got to get back up.
Right. You ain't got the choice. And so that's what I was about to say. Is like, as far as accountability. So when I hear accountability, because we kind of had a conversation about this before, because my father figure wasn't there. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, when your father figure isn't there, and you're a black man, and you growing up in America, and you're trying to figure out and trying to navigate, how important, you touched on it a little bit, but how important, or where did your influence come from, and how important is it for you, or for you to say to somebody else as having a mentor or having somebody that you look to for some type of guidance, you know what I'm saying, or advice?
So, first of all, my mother, got to give her all the props. You know what I mean? Being a single mother, and doing the best that she could and raising a boy. But there's just certain situations that you experience outside them 4 walls that you call home that, like, your mother can't prepare you for.
Right.
And again, some of that is just trial and error, learning, figuring out. But you got to be. It's a situation where, like, I know it's a little different now. Like, kids not outside the way that we were outside, but when we was outside, like, we weren't protected from nothing. You know what I mean? Like, we was really active and really in the neighborhood. And that helped me build character, because you had to be able to identify who was who, what was what. You had to figure out how you was going to get to the corner store safely. You know what I mean? You had to figure out, shit, like, this ain't nothing I need to tell my mama. Like, this ain't, because mama going to be mama. Once mama activate, she ain't gonna let you do that shit no more. Right. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, if I tell her what I just not, if I come home, I used to have those times, like, I busted up my knee real bad,
right,
or whatever. You have to wait for it to stop bleeding, or you know what I'm saying.
Can't
you gotta go to your partner house and rinse off and get yourself together, because
can't tell them.
If they find out, it's gonna cut your fun for the next day. So you gotta toughen it all the way out.
Straight up.
But nowadays the way the culture is, and I kind of just said something about it. Nowadays the way the culture is like, immediately when a kid feels pain, you know what I'm saying, they just running in and like, oh yeah, and coddle.
Super coddle.
You know what I'm saying? But they don't have the experience. It's like they don't know how to leverage their pain. You know what I mean? It's like I just seen somebody post something. It was funny. It was like when the 15-year-olds now talking about they depressed. When I was 15, I was outside selling crack. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And it's like, it's like we didn't even think about pain in that way. You know what I mean? It was like it was kind of like automatic. You just had to figure out kind of like how to leverage it. And there was nobody that was kind of like that was there that was like, okay,
you couldn't even come outside.
Yeah,
like, you couldn't.
Yeah, don't even show up.
Like, you couldn't come outside. Like, I had, like, to your point about having, mentors and things. Before we even get to the mentor part, like, I had my boys that was my age, and then they had their big brothers.
Yeah, right.
And they had their uncles, because I had an older sister, and my pops wasn't around. So, like, all these male figures that are older than me are around. So whatever they doing to their little brother, they doing to you too. You know what I'm saying? You go outside, he beating his ass, roughing him up.
You gotta
you
get it
getting
too.
You getting it too.
Yeah.
Oh, you crying? You hurt? Get your weak ass up. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, take your ass in the house.
Yeah.
Don't come outside.
And you come back out and you on that same bullshit again, bro. Go ahead on.
Right.
Like, and it wasn't even like, you know, when you look back and you say that, like, it's perfectly normal to us, but it's totally abnormal now.
Yeah, they call it bullying.
Yeah, 100%. But it built character. It built a certain amount of toughness that helped you survive. And I mean, there's no way to recreate
I'm glad
that.
that we had this conversation. So the anti-bullying campaign is really what started all this bullshit. When they got rid of bullying, because you got to think about that though. Like I talked to my own son about this. It's like everybody praises you all the time, so you think that you are so fire. Right? But when I was growing up, nobody praised you. You know what I'm saying? Every place that you went, you had to prove that you was fired.
100%.
Like like that's why I was telling them, like if I want to go out to because I'm going out to the court. I'm going out to the court. I'm going out to the field. Whatever's being played, I'm going to be out there no matter what. So then I had to make a decision. If I'm out there, this is how I learned how to catch.
Right.
If I'm out there and we playing football in between the buildings and I'm playing, I want to get the ball. The only way that I'm going to get the ball thrown to me is if I catch the ball.
Before you even get there, you want to get picked.
You want to get picked, right.
You want to get picked.
So that's what I'm telling him, the concept of it, like, you know, even when it comes down to basketball and stuff like that, where if I'm getting to the court, I'm going to, if when I was young, I got to the court before everybody else. And I'm not even a basketball player, but I wanted to play because everybody else was playing.
Right.
So I got to the court before everybody else because I wanted to show the older, whoever the better players were, that I was working.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I wanted to show them that I could hit this shot. I wanted to show them that if they passed me the ball, that I could take the ball to the rack. And you know what I'm saying? So I'm basically showing off for them in order to even get a position to even play one game, because you know once it gets heated, you're not gonna get picked anymore. But the amount of work that I put in just to get picked. Right. You know what I'm saying? It's like y'all are missing this whole experience because you're just being praised all the time, when we actually got bullied. Like, get your track, man. Look, man, you know you can't make that shot. What are you doing?
So I'm gonna come back and we're gonna course correct that conversation, because I think it's important. But I also want to say, like, to your point, like, think about what you just said. Like, so we had the basketball, the crate, before we had the rim and all that shit was on a light pole in between the buildings I stayed in, right? So to your point, we got out there early of the young boys getting the game in before the older cats come out there. Like, they getting to see you play. They seeing you play against each other. Now it might be 4-5 of them, you know what I mean? So like, you got to mix and play with the older guys. Right. You know what I mean? So like, not only is they getting to see that you can play, but like, you gonna get fouled. Like, they gonna talk shit, you know what I mean? They gonna call you out your name. They gonna call you a scrub. Don't pass that nigga the ball, self-check. You know what I'm saying? All that.
Well, that was the number one thing too for us though too, was especially when it came to basketball, the game that made me competitive was 21. So 100%. Before the basketball game cranked up, you played the 4 or 5-on-5 game cranked up because there wasn't enough people. You was playing 21, and you had to get it how you lived in 21. It was everybody for themselves. So if you had to put yourself in a position, you smaller than everybody else, you have to get this rebound. There's only one way to get the ball. Is either you got to steal the ball or you got to get this rebound. 100%. So that's how I learned how to jump. That's how I learned how to play defense. That's when I got the ball. Oh, I gotta hurry up and get back here to this 3-point line and give myself enough space to get close enough to the basket before somebody comes and try to steal the ball from me, because I'm the easiest target. You know what I'm saying? So it's like they're going through this the trainers and whatever, and they're not going through this adversity. And it's like, man, what's going on? Like, at a certain point in time, it's like, you know, we got to bring bullying back a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just, at the end of the day, even with the club shit, when BMF was here, when BMF was in the club, the little niggas was getting bullied. Yeah. I was bullied. Listen, when I went to the club, when I was in college, I was fire at football. I was going to the league. But when I went into the club, I was little itty bitty. Who is this nigga? How do you know him? If a girl come by me, I ain't in. I had a couple partners, so sometimes I was in the space and in the right section or whatever like
Yeah.
that. But if I wasn't in that section,
Right.
and one of the bad bitches goddamn came by and stopped and talked to me, by the time they got over there, the nigga was like, man, who is you? Why is you
Right.
even talking to that little nigga right
Right.
over there? That nigga, man, what? You know what I'm saying? So we was getting, and whatever that was, that gave me, I was already competitive, but it gave me even more drive. You know what I'm saying?
It lit the fire. Like, nah, I ain't gonna be on the end of that.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, I can't blame it on anything. I made the choices that I made to put me in the position that I'm in. You know what I'm saying? I'm unbelievably blessed at this point in time, which is why I want to give back whatever stories, whatever information, whatever knowledge that I've gained. I want to make sure that I'm in a position, you know what I'm saying, to give it back as best as I can to whoever wants to receive it. You know what I'm saying? But during this time period, I said to myself, I have to come out on the other side bigger, because I don't ever want to be in a position to where a female has to walk past me knowing she wants to talk to me, but she can't talk to me
You ain't got
because
enough money.
exactly
Right.
because she has to pay attention to the money.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But that's all everything that we kind of sitting here talking about, because it's financial. It's like people don't understand how important that part of it is, and they neglect the financial part of it, and they substitute that for fun.
But that don't go away. It's just how you prioritize it. And if you're not willing to play that game, don't put yourself in the game. Like, stay away from it. I was talking to a cat who was at Red Phone Booth smoking cigars, talking some business. And he asked me when it was the last time I had been to Miami. And he asked me what I thought about it. I was like, I love Miami. When I go down there to do Miami, you know what I mean? Like, I know what Miami is. He's like, I don't feel like it's just like a lot of competition. I'm like, yeah, nigga, it's all competition. Like, what do you like? You don't go
Inspiration.
You don't.
I call it inspiration.
Well, he's talking about like
I get what you're
to
saying.
get the attention of females he would like to talk to. I'm
Mhm.
like, yeah, bro, it's competition. Like, and if you're not willing to compete, then you might want to go to Coral Gables on the outskirts somewhere. But like Miami, nah, bro. Like, if you gonna go to Miami, you gonna do Vegas, LA, like, it's competition, bro.
Yeah, I love to drive on the way to Miami, man. I love looking at the yachts. I'm gonna get me a boat one day. It's just something that motivates me when I'm out and I'm putting in the work in, and I'm doing my process and I'm trying to stay consistent. I think about those things because I want to live like that. You know what I'm saying? One day. So before we get up out of here, go ahead.
I wanted to circle back on that one thing if we got time.
Go ahead.
Before we were talking about the
Go ahead.
bullying, I think that language is important, and as we are growing and maturing as men, and the human race within of itself has more access to information, we're learning about these words and these buzzwords to help contextualize some of our experiences, right? Mm-hmm. I think something that's really important that we got to have more conversation about is how you and I grew up. Our definition of what we saw as being a man was kind of rooted in toxic masculinity. You know what I'm saying? And while I think some of that shit is still important, to your point, but like, we have to figure out what the balance is between being able to instill in men and young boys to be tough, to be accountable, to stand up for yourself,
Right.
and all these things without it crossing the lines of, what I'm saying, being so toxically masculine that it kind of damages us in a way that when we show up in relationships with women that we don't know how to undo that shit.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And it's we don't know because we don't know until it shows up, but it does show up at some point. Some cases you might say, look, like, I'd rather be that way than this way, because we all fucked up in some shape, way, form, or fashion.
Right.
We don't know what it is, because if you coddle, you come out one way. If you know what I'm saying, somebody too tough on you, come out another way. Like, pressure gonna push you one way, left or another.
Right.
But we gotta start identifying and teaching each other, like, yo, like, yeah, we got here and we cool and we all right, but at the end of the day, like, we gotta find a way to unlearn and recontextualize some of these things, because these kids not gonna get it the way that we got it. So how do we still instill that same character, mental toughness, and fortitude in our young men without re-injecting that toxic masculinity into their lives?
Right.
That's tricky.
It's about having conversations. It's about dropping them off and letting them experience things. Let them fall. You
Right.
know, let them skin their knee up. You know what I'm saying? Let them get beat up. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of lessons, important lessons that are in those falls, and I think now we're just really obsessed as a society, as a culture, as a community, on breaking, you know, our kids' falls, because we're overprotecting them because we were underprotected, and it doesn't. We're overcorrecting something that didn't need to be overcorrected. But yeah, this is a super dope conversation. I wanted to end on, you know, you letting people know what you have going on between here, James Room, Whiskey. Where can they check you out? What websites can they find you on? If somebody was looking for a mentor and had a couple questions, how could they get in contact?
No doubt, man. Y'all can follow me at the THE_choice. That's my Instagram page. That's pretty much my centralized place of contact. I'm kind of a shadowy person, but this is my place. This is my place of business. I'm real big on building brands and letting the brands speak for themselves. Working on a James Room too, so stay tuned for that. Check in if you're in Atlanta. Y'all need to come to Skip Day. Skip Day we do once a month at Westside Motor Lounge.
Real dope event.
It's a real dope event. We straight up leave work. You know what I mean? Ain't nobody got in trouble yet, but we leave work, go hang out in the middle days from like 12 to 7. So watch out for that.
Everybody goes and has a good time. It's a real fun event.
Yeah, it's a real fun event, age appropriate fun. And other than that, you know, I got some e-commerce lines and I'm dropping in the near future, so y'all be on the lookout for that as well. And I want to thank my man Ruben for having me.
Yes, sir.
Untrapped.
Yes, sir, brothers. My brother from
2025.
another. You know what I'm saying? That's what we're gonna do, man. We're gonna keep on stacking up these conversations. You know, we probably gonna follow me and Pancho talk for days, man. Y'all probably gonna get a lot more episodes out of us, man. This is what we do naturally, and we just looking forward to it, man. You know what I'm saying? Undoing some of these processes, undoing some of these, unlearning some of these things that have woven into and ingrained themselves into our community that don't need to be. You know what I'm saying? We can break some of that stuff up one conversation at a time.
One conversation at a time. I like that.
All right, we'll see y'all next time.